We're live.
Yep. No problems this time. What the hell?
Well, we're live, by the way, on LinkedIn and
Yeah,
everything.
that's fine. They could deal with it.
The immortal leadership lessons from Dan Scott.
I
You
can
can
tell you
deal.
what, man. This is frustrating.
Dan is having a frustrating morning, everybody.
I am, but it's not. Yeah, I mean, the technology is great until it doesn't work.
Oh man.
So, but yeah, how you doing, man?
Good. You know, figured I'd chit chat with you a little bit about leadership and emergency management, and the good work. First of all, Dan, the work you're doing right now, some of the content you're putting out is fantastic, and keep up the good work. I appreciate that and everything that you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. That's the goal, is to put as much out as I possibly can, and the more research and the more engaging conversations that we could have and get eyes on and get some attention to leadership in general, to emergency management, to growth, and get people to kind of change the way they do things in just enough ways that it's beneficial to them and their organization is kind of my goal for that. So I appreciate that. And that, all the stuff we're doing, with theory into practice, with EMN media, with, frame, with, the IAM, all the stuff, that we're doing that people don't really know. They may not know about, or they may not know the extent of, or it's kind of what we're doing. But what I would like to ultimately, let's talk about what you're doing. Let's talk about the fact that you're running for, second VP of IAEM. Let's talk about that. Why are you doing
that? I want to say I'm doing it reluctantly. What I mean by that is not that I'm reluctant to leave IAEM. Was never my intention or my goal to be here. And what I mean by this is, like, I was going to be VP. That's my goal. Originally, was to run for VP for IAEM Region 9 and kind of help out in the region. And then Yuri Graves is like, hey, man, I'm going to step down as president. I'm not going to run again. And I'd like you to run for president. And I was like, oh.
Did we lose Todd? Seriously? We lost Todd?
Sorry about that. Yeah, don't hit the little arrow on your. I went to put a piece of dust off my keyboard and I hit the arrow and I went back. So what I was saying is, Yuri Graves asked me to run. Said, hey, I'm not going to run for president, and he asked me if I'll do it. So I said, okay. If that's, it's always the goal to what can I do to serve the organization. I believe in the organization. I believe in IAM wholeheartedly. I believe that this is this is where all emergency managers should be part of, and work through the process of IAM to be able to have one single voice. And you think of the other organizations that are successful in doing this, like the International Association of Firefighters or the International Association of Fire Police Chiefs and Fire Chiefs. Those groups have one voice. They come together, and not everybody in those associations agree with each other as well. But at the end of the day, there's a voice to go and fight for ideas and policies that impact their profession. And I think IAM is that voice right now, and should always be together. We could be that voice to be stronger. And we had a couple of bad years. A few people disagreeing with some things that occurred. There was some strife, and we need to heal from that. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, hey, man, I think that we could do this. I do a decent job of building bridges, and so a few people have talked to me on on the board at the time, IAEM USA board. Talked to some people that aren't part of the board. I was asking them, what we need to do to be a better, stronger organization, and then at times few people asked me to lead and said, "Hey, would you run for second VP?" And I said, "Sure." And that's why I said, "Okay, I'll put my name in my." And I'll be honest with you. At one point, I just thought about not even running for IAM Region 9 president and just stepping away from everything. But that's not the way to make things better. It's not the way to make things better. To make things better is to work hard, even when the chips are down, even when you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's time to work harder, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to run for second VP. And it's not about me; it's about the members. And I've said this in Region 9. How do we make this region better for its membership? And I'm just taking that idea to the national level. How do we make this organization better for its membership? How do we represent the members when they need representation? And it's about being the voice for the membership, and that's why I'm running.
Well, I mean, like I said before, I mean, I've told you individually, but I'm gonna tell everybody that's watching or maybe watching at some point or listening that I'll be voting for you. I totally endorse you as that position, where you've been, where you're going, what you're planning to do, what you want to do now. I think it's all beneficial. It all does go for the service of others, which I've always appreciated. One of the things, though, with IAEM specifically, is we got to try and do the best we can to remove the politics and just be about service, right? And it's not necessarily all about the individual, as it is too, that we got to build the individual so we can build the profession. Right? Yeah. There's a hierarchy, there's a higher achievement there, that if we can build each other up, especially in emergency management, where we still are lacking in so many areas as it relates to standardization, direction. If we could build each other up, we could build up the profession. And if sometimes we didn't allow our personal feelings to cloud our judgment and sometimes get us emotional about our responses. I mean, if anybody knows how to trigger me, Todd knows how to trigger me, and he does it on purpose sometimes. But that comes. Sometimes it's from passion. It's from being emotional. So, I love about Todd. He's really good at remaining calm, even when inside he may be screaming a little bit. So, I think you'll be great at it. I was sorry to see that our president resigned and stepped down. I don't know why, and I don't know all the details. I don't need to know all the details, but it'd be nice to know that our leadership is going to be strong and supportive. As you said, we want to support the members. We want to support the profession. Brian Scroggins is on here. He says, he's saying that you'll be great, which, I agree with that 100%. So thanks, Brian, for that. And congratulations to Brian. I mean, he just implemented a nonprofit himself, the Emergency Management Foundation. I don't know all the details, just what has been provided so far via social media. But congratulations. I look forward to being able to sponsor, or support you in your efforts. I did send you a message just with some questions because I was curious about some stuff, but I look forward to being able to support you in your effort, and I 100%. I think you'll be successful in that as well. I think you're under so what you're doing. You're kind of switching just to talk about since I see him on here. I think we need more of that. I mean, we've developed FRAME, Foundation for the Advancement of Research, or the Foundation for Research and Advancement of Emergency Management, FRAME. It's spelled incorrectly. So that's a nonprofit as well, aimed at promoting more research, more advancement into the profession of emergency management, and really supporting those who are doing the research, academia, practitioners that are actually doing it. So it's a mixture of getting the support to those who are doing the research, and then transitioning that to the practitioners who actually can implement it. So it's a combination of the two. But Frame is our nonprofit that we've come up with. So we're not in competition, which is great for what we need. So again, congratulations on that. But Todd, we're doing a lot of things right now, a lot. And one of the areas that I know that we've talked about this, off air multiple times, is the amount of pressure sometimes that can continue to go when we want to do these things. Like for IAEM, that's a volunteer thing, right? We got IAEM. We want to help support the emergency managers. We want to help support the profession, but we also have a day job. And then we also have a family, and we also have, X, Y things, and just keep. So how are we prioritizing that? I mean, how do we keep moving forward where we have these things? We want to give our time. We want to give our knowledge and experience to help drive professionals, help drive the profession. But we do have a day job. We do have family that we need to look after and spend time with, and we got friends as well, friends and family out there that want to see us and spend time with us. And how do we do that? How do we prioritize that time?
Well, first I want to address Justin Cates' question that you had. So first, Justin has put a lot of time and effort into IAEM, and I appreciate his past efforts and his leadership. He's not going anywhere. He just talk about time management issues and time. He needs to step down due to issues for work and home, right? This is a volunteer position, and there's a lot of work that goes into stuff that people that haven't been behind the curtain, for lack of a better term, I hate using that term, but if somebody else said it, so I'm going to borrow it. But in the room, right? And by the way, if you guys want to come to a board meeting, you can just ask your regional president that you'd like to sit in for a reason, or to the board meeting. Give your reason. Doesn't have to be like a detailed reason. Just say, hey, I want to sit in because I'm interested in this, whatever this is, whatever topic is there. And you're allowed to come in and observe the board meeting. The board meetings are once a month, right? You go, okay, how much time can be on there? Well, all the other meetings that are occurring on the side, especially when you're on the USA, like when you're on the second VP, the secretary, the treasurer, the first VP, the president, the past president, all have additional meetings that are associated with it. And then as a board member, you're also on. You're the board liaison to a couple of the caucuses and committees that are out there. So there's a bunch of stuff that you're going through as far as like work and yeah, you could get on the board and just do your monthly meeting and not be involved. And I suppose I don't know what the sense of doing that is, but you could. But if you really want to do the job right, there's a lot of time that goes into it, and that's one of the things that is short on our list, right? We only have 24 hours that we can burn in a day. And, at least 6 of those you need to sleep, right? So it kind of reduces the number of hours that you have to work. And then if you have a young family, or if you have a demanding job and a family. And the reason I say young family is I think it's a little more pressure. Dan, you're a great example of it. I mean, all your kids are under the age of 11, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, 12 this month, actually.
Oh, 12, okay.
My oldest turns 12, so.
Okay, so under the age of definitely under the age of 18. So and there's a lot of time that's associated with them, right? I mean, they need your time as a dad, and then they need their things that they're doing, such as going to sports and whatever their activities are in, swim lessons or whatever, right? School, that plays into it. So there's time that is going to be associated, and I think it's more important for all of us, for our mental health and everything, is to put more time into our families. And then you do a good job of that. And then you go into your day job, which pays your salary, which they have expectations, and they want at least 8 to 10 hours of your time in that, right? And we might get lucky, right? We might be able to do some crossover stuff where you can do two things that work for work and for, say, for your for IAEM, for instance, or whatever, or the state association, whatever you belong to, right? And so then then you have your you can't just be work. So there's times that you have to decompress, whatever you use to decompress, whether it's going for hiking, camping, driving on the road, going to cooking class, whatever you're doing to decompress. You need some of that time to do that as well. So, so you do have to balance all those things. So the question is like, how do we balance all those? It is a tricky thing to do. And there's times when I think, okay, yeah, give me more, because we're all A personalities that are in this business, or the majority of us are. And then all of a sudden you're like juggling, you're the guy that's spinning the plates, right? And you're putting more plates on there and you're spinning those plates. And every once in a while, you may drop one of those plates, and that's when you have to reevaluate of how much can you really hold on to. And so, because we think we can do it all. And what you need is a support structure, not just with your family support structure. Like Dan and I try to. I'm not as diligent as I should be. We have a group of us that meet together once a week, and we can push ideas and maybe even like lift the plates off of somebody else's spinning rod for a little while, and hand it back over to them when you need that help. So having that support structure is critical. So, and then at the end of it is, all sorts of techniques for calendar, for using calendars and whatnot. Those are ways to manage your time, but realistically have a realistic expectation on what you can handle. All right. And, Dan and I both have talked about this a lot. Both of us like to say yes. We don't want to let people down. And so we're going, okay, yeah, sure, we can do it. And we fit it in somehow. And people always go, how do you fit it in? I go, you just do, right? You just try to make that time. So know those limitations that you have on your time, and set boundaries on the other side of it too. That was where I failed a lot, especially like in my family side. I would not set the boundaries on me to my outside expectations, and then I have that with the family. So I had to reevaluate where I was so I could spend more time with my young daughter, right, and my wife. And then now my son's out in the real world. Not that I don't worry about him, but
yeah.
I
don't think it ever stops. But yeah, congratulations on that with your son. He is out in the real world now, but he's not just out in the real world. He's out in the real world, following in your footsteps, so to speak. In fire, and he's getting work. So it's amazing. That he's there and he's doing that. And so bottom line, we do have to. It is about time management, because as cliche as it may sound, time is the one thing you cannot get back. So I tell people when I talk to them all the time, when I do interviews, and when I your most valuable resource is time, and I appreciate you giving me some of it. That's just, it really is, because you can't get it back. There's no do-over in the time when it comes to time. So it's all about how you restructure and redesign and manage it moving forward. And every week it's like a constant thing for me. Talk about personal growth and development. Time management is an ongoing way you got to continually improve on how you structure your time and where you allocate it and who gets it. And you do get to a point where you have to be a little, you have to be very, very, you got to guard your time because I've been hearing this actually quite a bit lately from different people that I listen to and talk to and follow, is for everything you say yes to on one side, just something else you're saying no to.
Yeah.
Or time that you're restricted, that ultimately you can't allocate to something else of importance to you. So, having that, okay, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And yeah, you and I are the same when it comes to people saying, hey, can you do this? And you're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, then you don't think about the hours and even minutes sometimes. Being able to pull 15 minutes every once in a while to do something. But when you have hours to allocate to that monthly or yearly even, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? Where are you going to pull that time from? Now that you're putting that time there, what is now not getting your time? So It is difficult, but it's one that I work on literally every week, almost every day. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm trying to be a master of my calendar as well, like mastering my weekly calendar. Like, how do I get it in my calendar? And if not in my calendar, am I doing it? Am I not doing it? And there's weeks or days even where I'm like, it should have been in my calendar. That should have been on my calendar. One of the things that I've recently heard, and it's not new to me, but it's newer in the complexity of it, is doing a time and energy audit. But you got to do it for like at least a week, but suggested is 2 weeks. But you're literally going and you're checking you got an alarm set, and you're literally, what were you doing the last 15 minutes? Was it on your calendar? Was it worth it? Was it, and you're literally going, and they say, but by the time the 2 weeks is up, you've already made all the corrections, because every day you're getting it better, and you don't want to write down that you were just, staring off into space, or you were sort of, sourcing the internet, or watching TikTok for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So you make corrections as you go, so you never get a real clear vision, because you always make corrections. But they say by the time that's done, you have a real clear way on how to allocate your time based on 15-minute increments. But it seems like pretty intensive. Every 15 minutes, the alarm's going to go off, and I got to write down what I was doing and self-reflect on that.
Are you doing that right now?
I am doing that right now.
Does that become distracting?
It doesn't. Not necessarily. Depends on how much time I'm allocating, because my mentality. I'm a multitasker, so I can't concentrate too long on one thing. So it makes it easier for me to okay, was I in it where I should have been for as long as I should have been there. One of the things that I've found in my research is that you don't really get into a flow state for at least 15 minutes. So if I'm switching my focus more than I should be, I'm never really getting into that flow state into where I should be focusing for longer periods of time. So my goal is to be able to utilize that and get into flow state longer in one area versus kind of multitasking as much as I do. So my goal is I'll still be multitasking, but I'll be multitasking less often. So that's an area that I'm actually be working on. So if I look at my hour and broken down to 15 minutes, and in one 15-minute increment, I was in Canva, another 15 minutes, I was on at IAEM, another 15 minutes, then I'm not allowing my time to get in that flow state in any one area. So that's where I struggle a little bit, because my mind is always, so I'm like, dude, I got to do this. And I'll pop up another window because I got to do this. And I pop up another window because I got to, and I got to stop doing that, and it's got to be more structured. Right? Putting in my calendar, during this time, I focus on IAM. During this time, I focus on, my writing. During this time, I focus on, so it gets better and better. So, and I've already made corrections. Like I said, the most thing I heard over that is that by the time you get to the end of the 2 weeks, you've already made the corrections, because after 15, 20, you're doing that, boom, boom, boom. You start making the corrections during that time. You're like, well, I don't need to do that. And you can take it out, or I need to do more of this and put it in. So it's a lot more self-awareness, self-reflection.
Where did you pick this up from? Like,
the book I was reading was Buy Back Your Time.
Oh, Buy Back Your Time.
How do you get more time, and how do you allocate it? And it's the author Dan Martell. Great book. I got it on audio. I got it right here on my desk. Got it on audio and physical. Great book. I highly recommend it. And I have literally gone through it, both audio and physical, half a dozen times, because it's got some great stuff in there on
audio and analog.
What's that?
Audio and analog.
I have it both. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I have it on audio and physical copy. Did I say it wrong?
No, I'm being silly.
No, I could absolutely have said that wrong. I could have been like, yeah, I have it on audio and audio, because my mind doesn't work. But yeah, it's a great book. I highly recommend it. I've actually had a brief conversation with him, the author.
Oh, cool.
Based on some of his teachings, and wanted to get more from that, and trying to actually get him on my podcast. but he's very guarded of his time, obviously. So,
well,
yeah.
You know the book, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yes, I have it. I do have
Right.
it. I have that both in physical and audio as well.
So now I'm reading or listening to, I should say, a book about them, about the author of the book. It's called it's called oh my gosh, why am I losing my mind right now? Hang on a second, it's over here too. It's called The Undoing Project by Michael Lewis, the same guy who wrote the book Moneyball. Same guy. Very very interesting book, but it's about the authors and this team that came together. But Daniel Kahneman, I think I'm saying his name correctly. He would not. He was an odd guy and very 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 smart guy. But he would get mail, and it's stuff he didn't care about. He just wouldn't even open. He would just like he had like these 4 piles on his table. You know, one pile was the stuff that he was interested in, the other stuff was whatever, and then eventually he would just like throw the whatever away, and that would include like invitations to parties or to receptions and things like this that just didn't make a difference to him. So he didn't even care about it, and that was just the way he did stuff. He would only do things that mattered to him, and everything else was just noise. He wouldn't pay attention to it. And so I find it interesting. I don't think that I could do that because I'm just like I need to digest things, look at things, touch things, and then make a decision on them. But he just was like not even interested, not even gonna touch it, not even gonna look at it. He wouldn't reply to phone calls, emails. Like if he just didn't feel it was worth his time, he just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I gotta, it's a part of our job. We have to know, we have to research, we have to read and write and listen and evaluate and contemplate, and just like we have to do all this stuff before we make decisions sometimes. So it's not necessarily always the best, most ideal, as far as time management goes, because sometimes our time is not necessarily, it's ultimately hijacked because of an incident or because of a meeting, impromptu, like, something crisis pops up and boom, our attention has to focus on that. Like, so we may not have complete, or not may not, we do not have full 100% autonomy over our time as an emergency manager, because you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, you can plan and process and get systems in place as best as possible, but there's going to be those times where you're like, hey, you need to be in this meeting because something's happening, or something just happened.
I mean, like
something. So
the other day I was at this training, Dan. I was at this training in Norwalk, and I get the alert on my phone saying that there's this call, which in and of itself I get a lot of alerts on my phone, by the way, for the calls, because I'm on this program that shows everything that's happening in my city. And it was they said, oh, they're evacuating a building. And I was like, oh, that's mildly interesting. And I looked at it and it was like, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, if it's anything major, I'll get a phone call from the battalion chief. All right. I didn't get anything. So about 10 o'clock, one of my classmates, Crystal, she goes, hey, do you see this on the news? And I'm like, oh man, this is bigger than just a small building evacuation. So if it was like an apartment, I would have gone, but it was just an office. And it happens all the time, right? Somebody spills something, becomes a nothing burger, they evacuate the entire building, like a fire alarm, and 15 minutes later, everybody's back in. Well, ends up being that, so I reached out to my chief, and I go, hey, do you need assistance on this? And I said, I haven't heard anything for the BC. And he goes, yes, come in. Well, it ends up being that the BC had to leave for something. The chief ends up being the acting battalion chief, if you will. So it's a small department, right? So he's in charge. I get there and he's just like, I need you to be PIO. And I went from being a student in a class to responding to this chemical spill, and as emergency manager. So I'm thinking, and then then my roles got switched over to being the public information officer, like that. So that's our day, right? I mean, like, so anything I had planned for that day was completely gone, right? And so I spent the rest of the day answering phone calls, making press releases, and talking to the media about the incident and what we did and stuff. So my entire day shifted. And you have to be flexible like that in this job to be able to go, okay, if you are a I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm going to be inflexible on this. There are times when you got to wipe your entire calendar off, and you're like, I'm done. I'm on this incident, or even if something that is maybe not your normal job, such as like working as a public information officer. I had to, because our PIO, the firefighter PIO, was actually in the incident. The city communications person was out of the office that day, and our battalion chief obviously was not available for whatever reason. So then it came down to, that's saying, so you're four or five layers deep, and now you're up. Okay, so thank God you took your PIO course on your EMI PIO course or something, or you've taken a couple of PIO courses somewhere. I highly recommend that you take those courses, because you don't ever know when you're going to be it, and you're it, and then there it is. And so be prepared for it, be ready for it, be flexible. And we talk about your time management. That some people, that will throw them off for a month. Just like, oh my God, that one day where I had all these things planned on doing, I couldn't get them done. And then on the other side of it, your normal job has to still get done, right? So you might have to put extra hours in. And so and I know that there's a philosophy now that as soon as it turns 5 o'clock, people are shutting their computers off and they're not answering anything. Well, you're in the wrong business if that's your philosophy in emergency management.
Yeah, if you're an EM, that's definitely you're in the wrong business.
Yeah. So, you got to get the rest of the stuff done. So sometimes you work a little bit later. Sometimes you work from home. So going back to the home work balance, it's the thing that breaks my heart the most whenever I'm working from home. When my daughter walks in the room and she's like, "Hey, Dad, can we do something?" I'm like, I always hate no later, putting her off. But sometimes we have to do that. And it breaks my heart a little bit, because I know she's getting older, and there's going to be a time when she's not going to ask me to do something, and I only have that short window. Especially it's shorter now, right? She's about to be a teenager here shortly, so.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I've dealt with that too. I got 3 of them running around, and all of them. And as much as I would like to spend that when they walk by, when I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm doing a record, or I'm doing whatever, and sometimes it's like frustrating as well. It's like, going through, and you want to spend time and you want to have that engagement, but you can't based off what you're doing.
And leadership doesn't stop at work, right? What I mean by this is you and your partner, your wife, your spouse, at home, have leadership roles as well, right? You're a dad, you're a husband, you're a community member, a member of your church or synagogue or mosque or whatever, or if you don't do religion, whatever club that you belong to, right? Leadership is one of those things that you have to do all the time. And then on the other side of it too is, I know we didn't really get into it today much, but also to be and learn this in the military. To learn to be a good leader, you also have to learn how to, when it's time for you to step back and be a follower. And that's something that, there are times when you go, okay, I'm not the guy, I'm not the decision maker today, right? I'm not the person. So for instance, like when you're, IAEM is a good example of it, being on the board, I can say my piece, right? And then when the decision is made, you go, okay. And then you go along with that decision, because there's been a lot of thought process put into it. Leadership isn't being subversive, right? Isn't saying I disagree with this decision, so now I'm going to submarine it everywhere I go. That's not leadership. That's disruptive. And there's ways to get, if there's a decision that was made that was something you disagree with, there's ways to bring it back up and to make change. But it's not by undermining. So if Dan and I are talking and we make a decision and Dan's the guy in charge today, I'm not going to start submarining Dan. That's not leadership at all. That is toxic. That's a toxic.
Yeah, that's far from leadership.
Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't build a relationship between Dan and I, and it doesn't build trust between the organization, you know, you and the organization. It doesn't build trust between other people in that organization because they don't know if you're going to submarine them, you know. So, you know, so if we make a decision, Dan's the guy in charge, and he says this is what's going to be. I'm like, I might not agree with him, you know, but I'm going to say, okay, this is the decision that we're making. I'm going to support you 100%.
Yep.
You know,
It just good. I mean, the different complexities that go along with it. It also boils down to attitude and personality, and you know your level of passion and investment that you have in the whole process. Right. The last thing you want to do, even if you feel like it, is to undermine somebody publicly. You know, if you disagree with them, you want to have that conversation offline. Let's do it. But publicly, you know, you support, you endorse, you keep your mouth shut if you have to. That's leadership. You know, sometimes saying nothing is like the best part of support you can actually provide somebody. Well, we've been going for 36 minutes, man. I know that it's your day off and everything like that, so I know you got stuff going on. I appreciate you going live with me to just have this discussion. Once again, everybody, if you're out there right now, and Todd is running for second VP for IAEM, I 100% endorse that. I will be voting for you, my friend.
thank you, brother.
Voting comes next month. We're now on July 1st.
Yeah, August.
So August comes August, so we're a month away to actually start to make that vote. So if you are an IAEM member, please remember that. Please make sure to vote. You're a member. You have a voting right. You need to vote. Just like any other election, it's important. Your voice does matter. You know, so and you'll be hearing more from me and Todd and me as well, endorsing him. But me and Todd together as we do these lives, we got a lot going on, a lot in the pipeline, and our goal is to serve. Our goal is to promote you as an emergency manager, as a leader, but we also want to promote the profession overall, and that's what our goal is. So thank you for those who are here. Thank you for the comments that are out there. Thank you for the support that you give, but remember to pay attention as we got more stuff coming as it relates to IAM and the changes that are coming as well there, and Todd's going to be one of them. So thank you, Todd.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.